Today we're exposing 5 rum brands that are robbing you blind and revealing 5 that are actually worth the money. Rum is one of the easiest categories to get wrong because the shelf does most of the convincing before the bottle is even opened. Colour, age language and heritage do a lot of work. The liquid doesn't always back it up, and some of the most expensive and best-looking bottles are bought to signal taste, not to be enjoyed. Others sit quietly on lower shelves, delivering more flavour, balance and usefulness for a fraction of the price. We're going to break down which rums are all presentation and which ones actually earn their place in your glass. Subscribe now and let's start. Number 5, Rumbero Cuban rum. This is the kind of bottle that wins in the aisle. Dark golden colour, Cuban on the label, and just the fact that it pairs great with cola or on ice. It looks familiar in a comforting way, like a safe choice you don't have to overthink. That isn't accidental. This is shelf design doing its job. The colour suggests age. The word Cuban suggests heritage. The serving cues suggest ease. Before you ever pour it, the bottle has already made its case for you. But when you drink it, the problem is that it's empty. You get sweetness that feels syrupy without being satisfying, a palate that comes off thin and lightweight, and a finish that just stops. There's no grip, no depth, nothing that carries through the sip and tells your brain this is actually rum. A rum like this sells you the appearance of character, but you end up with a glass that tastes like you paid for colour, not flavour. It checks boxes visually, then leaves you doing all the work once it's poured. And once you notice it, it's hard to unnotice because every cocktail you make with it feels like you're adding rum presence that never actually arrives. You keep adjusting the drink, more lime, more cola, more ice, trying to find something that isn't there. That's when you realize the bottle didn't fail loudly. It just quietly gave you nothing back. Number 4, Bacardi Black, also known as Carta Negra. The name sounds bold, and you think you're buying something that will hold its ground in a rum and coke. It signals weight, darkness, intensity. It feels like a safe upgrade, familiar brand, darker label, a step up without taking a risk. That expectation is doing most of the work. On the shelf, this looks like the rum that's supposed to bring backbone to a mixed drink, the one that won't disappear once the cola hits the glass. But the experience can turn weird fast and not in an interesting way. Instead of tasting like warm molasses richness or a clean oaky backbone, it veers into harsh and messy territory. The flavours don't line up. There's a rough edge that feels disconnected from the sweetness, like parts of the rum are competing instead of working together. It's the kind of rum that can be hard to enjoy even in cola, which is saying a lot because cola can hide a multitude of sins. You add more lime, you add more ice, you try ginger beer, you start treating the drink like a problem to solve instead of something to enjoy, and the bottle still doesn't become what the label promised. So at the end of the day, that's not a bargain. That's a bottle that makes you chase a good drink you can't actually get. One where every adjustment reminds you that the base spirit isn't doing its share of the work. Number 3, Plantation XO Barbados 20th Anniversary. This is the bottle that's really famous, and if you're newer to rum, it feels like the perfect upgrade. The kind of thing you buy when you want to stop drinking basic mixers and start sipping something that looks and feels more serious. It signals progress. But here's the problem this bottle represents in the most uncomfortable way. The branding, the packaging and the way retailers talk about it can easily lead people to assume 20th anniversary means a straightforward age statement. And in rum, that's where you start mistaking presentation for age, because the category allows practices that make a label feel older, richer, and more premium than the actual reality in the glass. Nothing illegal, nothing hidden, just enough ambiguity to do the work for the marketing. On top of that, this is a Barbados branded experience where the usual appeal is that the rum doesn't need heavy-handed additions to taste good. And yet here, it leans into that sweetened, polished, dessert-like direction anyway, smoothing over the edges that normally give the style its identity. If you love that profile, fine, but if you're chasing authenticity, balance, or a clean sense of what rum can be, this is an expensive way to learn that reputation and presentation can sometimes speak louder than the liquid itself. At number 2, Bumbu, the original. The piratey vibe, the bottle design, it's all engineered to make the average buyer feel like they discovered something special. It looks like a secret, like you've stumbled onto a hidden gem rather than another mass market bottle. That sense of discovery is the product, but enthusiasts call this kind of bottle out for a reason. It's not just that it's sweet, It's that it's built around sweetness and story first, with the actual rum part of it quietly left behind. The flavour profile is designed to be immediately pleasing, not to hold up once you start paying attention. That gap between expectation and reality is exactly why people feel burned by it. You think you're buying rum, but what you're really paying for is a narrow, sweetened profile that limits what you can do. It's the kind of bottle that tastes fun once, then starts to dominate every drink you put it in. You pour it with lime, ginger or bitters, and it doesn't adapt. It overrides. Every cocktail gets pulled into the same lane until you stop adjusting recipes and just stop reaching for the bottle altogether. That's when the value really disappears. Number 1, A.H. Riise Danish Royal Navy Rum. This particular drink sells the fantasy of Navy rum. Tradition, medals, prestige, and that old world promise of something bold and historic. It's positioned like a bottle you're meant to admire before you even pour it, but the complaint here is brutally simple. It smells and tastes like artificial confectionery sweetness, and this is the most expensive kind of disappointment because it's positioned as something you're supposed to sip, something you're supposed to respect. It asks you to slow down and take it seriously, and then it rewards you with a profile that feels more engineered than earned. If a budget bottle is rough, you shrug. If a premium Navy bottle makes you feel like you're chewing on candy-flavoured sweetener, you realise you didn't just miss, you paid for the story more than the liquid. That mismatch between price, promise and experience is why it takes the number 1 spot. Now, after all that, you're probably thinking, okay, so what do I buy then? Don't worry, there are bottles that taste honest, work in real drinks, and actually make you feel smart for spending your money. Bottles that don't need a story to justify what's in the glass. Here are 5 that are worth it. Number 5, Captain Morgan Original Spiced Gold. Yes, we know, this is the one people love to hate because it's everywhere. It's cheap. And it's spiced. It doesn't signal status, and it doesn't pretend to be rare. But worth it doesn't always mean connoisseur sipping rum. Sometimes it means you want a bottle that does exactly what you think it's going to do, every time, without pretending to be something else. There's value in that kind of honesty. Captain Morgan Spiced Gold is built to be smooth, sweet-leaning and easy, with those familiar vanilla and spice notes that make it friendly in simple serves. It's predictable in a way that works in its favour. It's the kind of rum that can turn into a quick, cold, mindless drink after a long day, without making you feel like you're wrestling with your own purchase or second-guessing why you bought it. And in the UK supermarket world, it's also a value game because the same bottle can swing wildly in price depending on where you buy it. This is one of those cases where timing and location matter more than brand prestige. If you pick it up at the right place, you're getting a branded bottle that's genuinely affordable per serve, and that's exactly what makes it worth it. At number 4, Mount Gay Eclipse. This is the bottle you grab when you want a classic Caribbean golden rum that actually feels like rum. Not syrup, not perfume, not marketing, just a solid, recognizable style that shows you what the category is supposed to taste like. Mount Gay has the heritage story people love, but the real reason it's worth the money is what happens when you pour it. It doesn't rely on tricks or heavy-handed sweetness. You get those warm, approachable notes that make golden rum such a crowd pleaser, honeyed sweetness, vanilla, banana, toffee-ish richness, and then a sip that gives you brown sugar richness before rolling into caramel, gentle spice, and that familiar butterscotch comfort. What matters is how coherent it feels. The nose matches the palate, the mid-sip doesn't collapse, the finish actually lingers just long enough to remind you that this is a proper spirit, not just a mixer with alcohol attached. It tastes composed. It's easygoing in the best way. You can pour it without thinking, and it doesn't punish you for that. It works for punches and party drinks, it behaves in a rum and coke, and it doesn't demand a special occasion, a specific recipe, or a lecture about how you're supposed to enjoy it. That's value. A bottle that gets used, not just admired. One that earns its place on your shelf by being dependable, honest, and quietly better than a lot of the flashier options around it. Number 3, Havana Club 3-year-old. If you make cocktails at home, this is the kind of bottle that pays you back fast. It's not flashy, and it doesn't try to impress you on the shelf. It earns its place by how often you reach for it. Cuban rum has a reputation for a smoother, sweeter-leaning style, and this one shines exactly where most people actually use rum. In classics like daiquiris and mojitos, it brings sugarcane character, a clean, citrus-friendly profile, and enough vanilla warmth to keep drinks from tasting sharp or thin. Everything sits where it should. What really matters is that it performs. You don't have to baby it with complicated ingredients or perfect ratios. Lime doesn't overpower it. Sugar doesn't flatten it. It holds together even when your measurements are a little loose, which is exactly how most people actually make drinks at home. It's also refreshingly honest. There's no syrupy gloss, no heavy-handed sweetness trying to do the work for you. The rum shows up, does its job, and gets out of the way, which is why bartenders lean on styles like this in the first place. And the supermarket price conversation matters here too, because even within the same country, the cheapest store for one bottle can be noticeably different from the most expensive. This is one of those rums where smart shopping genuinely changes how good the value feels. If you buy smart, this becomes one of the best value ways to keep a proper cocktail rum on your shelf. The kind of bottle that quietly upgrades your drinks without ever demanding attention for itself. Number 2, Appleton Estate Signature. This is what happens when you buy from a house that's been doing its thing for a long time and doesn't need to cosplay as luxury. There's no over-designed bottle, no inflated backstory, just confidence built on repetition and consistency. Appleton Estate is famous for Jamaican character, and this bottle is priced like it wants to be your everyday workhorse. But it drinks like it has something to say. It doesn't fade into the background. And it doesn't rely on sugar or softness to be approachable. It's a blend aged for an average of around 4 years, and that shows up as a silky, rich, full feel instead of a raw, young burn. You get sticky toffee warmth, pineapple brightness, and a little bit of that orangey funk that reminds you, yes, this is Jamaican. Yes, it has personality. The flavours are clear, but they're also disciplined. What separates it is structure. The mid-palate holds, the finish doesn't collapse. Whether you pour it neat, over ice, or into a drink, it brings shape and direction instead of just sweetness. This is the bottle that makes you understand why people love rum beyond sweet plus cola. It introduces depth without asking you to study for it. And at its price point, it's one of those rare purchases where you genuinely feel like you upgraded your home bar, not by spending more, but by choosing better. Number 1, the Duppy Share Aged Rum. This is the why didn't I buy this sooner bottle for a lot of people. It doesn't scream for attention on the shelf, but once it's open, it quietly takes over. It's a blend built from rums out of Jamaica and Barbados, and the magic here is balance, not compromise. It's punchy without being harsh, rich without being sticky, and it has that easy drinkability that makes a bottle disappear faster than you planned. The flavours arrive with confidence, but nothing overstays its welcome. You get a nutty depth alongside vanilla warmth, and then those cosy spice notes that make rum feel like rum. Clove, caramel, that rounded, almost autumny richness that works whether you're mixing or sipping. It plays beautifully with cola and ginger, but it's just as comfortable over ice, where you actually notice how well everything is put together. What sets it apart is how flexible it is without losing its identity. It doesn't collapse in cocktails, and it doesn't feel boring on its own. That's rare at this price point. The best part is that it punches above its price point, which is exactly what worth the money is supposed to mean. Not flashier, not louder, just better than you expected, and good enough that it becomes the bottle you measure others against. The shelf test. And here's the bigger lesson hiding under all of this. Rum is one of the easiest categories to get fooled by because it's allowed to be vague. Colour can be added. Sweetness can be added. Labels can do a lot of the work before the bottle is ever opened. Names lean on anniversaries, navies, pirates, islands, and heritage. They suggest history and character, but none of that guarantees you'll actually enjoy what's in the glass. The shelf can be convincing. The pour is where the truth shows up. The simplest way to tell the difference is how often you reach for the bottle after the first week, not how impressive it looks, not how much it cost, but whether it earns repeat pours without forcing you to justify the choice. Good rum doesn't need excuses, it just keeps getting opened. The real difference between a bottle that steals your money and a bottle that earns it isn't price or prestige. It's whether the rum is usable, balanced, and honest for the way you actually drink. Not the fantasy version of you, but the real one. Mixing drinks at home or pouring something at the end of the night. That's the test, and once you start judging bottles that way, a lot of labels stop being impressive very quickly.